No, I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself. Good morning. Welcome to Coffee with Norm. I'm Norm. So happy you're here with me. So happy you're watching this either today, tomorrow, after I post it, whenever. I just thank you so much. First, I hope and trust you're all well. And you're figuring this whole thing out and you're taking your precautions, being smart about everything, because we just don't know, right? So I hope it's working out for you. This pandemic kind of rolls into the conversation a little bit today. That's not why we're having it today. But today's topic is about fear. And this will be about 10 minutes long. And we do this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, in case you're new to us here. And my name is Norm Brzezicki. I own a company called Dash Strategic. We build dynamic organizations and their leaders. So that's what we're doing here today. So fear, and I'm not talking about real fear. I mean, there are things to be afraid of, right? There definitely are in the world, right? And oftentimes we think about those things, and they're real. So if a tiger was in my living room, I would be afraid. If a car is coming at you, I would be afraid. Those are very real things. So I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about things that aren't necessarily real. And there's lots of common ones we all have, ones that I have too, right? Fear of failure, etc., things like that. And we're going to go over some of those a little bit because I have every one of them. And you probably do as well. And the thing about fear is it often is made up in our minds. And it's often based on the fear of the unknown or not knowing the outcome. So this is where the power of your mind kicks into play here, right? Our mind is amazing. It is incredible when we control it. If you look at some of the data, we're not always using our mind to create something, solve something, build something. Often it's just on its own when we're doing our task, and we're kind of mindless at that point in time. And the mind being incredibly powerful, because it's incredibly powerful, it can be debilitating. So the mind has been proven we're all hardwired for, and your brain is hardwired for survival. And that's great, right? Nothing wrong with that. Unfortunately, we're living in a world, many of us, not all of us for sure, living in a world where we don't have to worry about some of those basic things that the brain originally was afraid of, like a saber-toothed tiger coming into our cave, etc. So the mind is great, but it's really the main job, if you were to look at it, is to keep you alive. And good for it. And thank you, brain, for doing that for me. But it doesn't always serve you at that point in time. So the thing about your brain being so powerful, again, it's great when we're controlling it. When it's on its own, it goes to some really dark places, right? And that's been proven by psychiatrists as well. And it's the real dilemma is it just doesn't stop. So being a powerful tool that it is, right? We use it, it's great, it's awesome. When we don't use it, it's still on. It's like not turning off the power saw, right? So it's also a powerful tool. So say it's compared to your hand, which is a really powerful tool, right? And you've got two of them, which is amazing. So our brain never stops. So if our other tools that we have couldn't stop, we couldn't stop it, it would be doing this all day. Right? And how awful would that be? And that's your brain. And you all catch yourself, your brain doesn't stop. We all catch ourselves having conversations sometimes going, what? Where did that come from? That came from your brain trying to just make sure that it does its job and keeps you alive. So there's some pretty silly things that it helps us out with, supposedly. So this fear of failure, right? And all these fears, many of these fears I'm going to bring up have no basis in fact. They're usually just a story that we've come up with the help of our brain, right? And then that story, because there's a direct connection to your emotions, turns into fear, that emotion, right? So you've got two really powerful things fighting you at that point in time. The conversation you had about, oh my God, this might be that or not, and then how it connects to your emotions. And your mind and your thoughts and your emotions are the two most important pieces of achievement, change, and growth. So we really sabotage ourselves. So let's talk about fear of failure. And we all, on a real conscientious level, know that failure is going to happen. We've all failed at things, right? It's not a bad thing. It's actually part of the process of growing and changing. And we all know that inherently because we've all learned how to ride a bike and had to fall, or you've learned to ski and you've had to fall. Things like that, right? So we know in our DNA that failure is not a bad thing, but there are some connections to failure, right? But if you are afraid of failure, you don't attempt anything really of significance for yourself. And everything we're going to talk about today about fears, this is short, right? 10 minutes long. That we pay a huge cost in our lives, a huge price if you don't go ahead and chase some of your dreams and get past some of these silly fears that our brain comes up with and our emotions support that, right? So fear or failure of one, because we know we need to fail. We know it happens. We've done our whole lives. We failed at things, but it's got us some amazing places. So staying in action, you're going to fail. Part of the process. I just want to make sure everyone's clear that courage, right? If you bring up the word courage, is not absence of fear. And you've all heard those quotes, right? It's courage is having fear and moving along anyway. Because I have fear of everything I'm going to talk about here today. And I have it right now, right? When I turn this computer on in the morning to do these presentations, I go, okay, but I know it's just my mind kicking into gear, right? What are the ramifications? Absolutely none. But my mind starts thinking of some silly things like the fear of not looking good. That's very real. We all have that, right? And much of this is supported by social media and media in general, and not having that perfect life, not having that perfect body, not making $1 million a year, all that stupid, silly stuff, but we're bombarded with it from the day we were born. So not looking right, not looking good is a huge fear we all have. And it's one of those silly things. If you just step back for a second and realize what that is, you on a real conscious level, you realize you come up with the conclusion, what a stupid waste of time. And that is a waste of time. Another one is fear of not being right all the time. I've got that. I've got it bad, right? So sometimes that stops me. But who's right all the time? Absolutely nobody in the history of the world has been right all the time. And again, I go back to that riding your bike. If you don't fail and sometimes are wrong, you're not going anywhere. And these things tend to freeze us up. Also, the fear of not being able to do it. Maybe you want to do something, you want to try something forever, like maybe start your own business or whatever it is, right? But you're afraid you can't do it. Well, without getting into action over it, problem solved. You didn't do it. And you can even say, oh, I was right. I didn't do it. Thank God. And the problem is people want to be safe. We want to stay on our couch, right? Because it's comfortable and it looks good. And we don't have to put ourselves at risk. We don't have to be wrong. We don't have to look foolish, etc., etc., etc. All these things stop us. And they're all silly. And they're all not real. But we've been brainwashed. Our mindsets are that they are real, and we're concerned with these things. So if I was afraid of not looking good, I would have not gone anywhere in my whole friggin' life, because that is silly. You've got to challenge yourself here. And that's how you get going in the world, regardless of your fears. The only thing I know to solve fear and fear getting in the way is action. And getting into action regardless if fear is there or not. So you have to understand that fear is there, right? And we all have it, and it all impedes us to a certain level. But you start getting some simple steps, quote unquote, baby steps, and get into action. And moving with fear is actually experiential. You get good at it, and because you realize quite soon that these conversations in your head that your mind has made up to save you and not allow you to change are not real. Most of them are not real. There are real things to be afraid of, but none of these things on the list are anything to be afraid of. But it's in the way. And you have your own particular fears. I have mine. I have a lot of them. I've learned not to listen to myself. And that might sound funny, right? Because we've been preached our whole lives that your mind is everything. And it's not. I mean, it's powerful. And believe me, it's an amazing thing. But you've got your spirit. You've got your body. You've got your energy, right? All these things make up who you are. So don't just let the mind take over. It's Use it when you need to use it, and when it's on its own making these crazy stories, just go, ha ha ha, look what I'm saying to myself. It's not real. That's the big leap in self-awareness, is those things are just not real. The only way I know out of getting stuck in fear, as I said, is action. You need to get into action over these things, because here's the dilemma, right? It's fear, it's a big cost to pay. Big cost to pay. Now you might, oh, I look good, I didn't fail, all that good stuff, but what kind of life are you living, right? So, I mean, I go back to that Helen Keller quote, who's had all kinds of things really to be afraid of: deaf, blind, mute, locked up in a closet since she was 8. Real stuff, right? And here we are in America, North America, most of us, and living a pretty simple, easy life, if you will. But we have these silly fears, right? Silly fears. And I get that they turn real in our head, in our emotions, but they're silly. We're blessed. We're all blessed. Get into action. Don't let these stupid things get in your way. And it happens to all of us, right? Myself included. And this is where you've got to catch yourself and see that your brain is saying things to you that probably aren't real. It's the fear of not knowing the outcome. And it's the fear of all those things: failure, having to look good, having to be right. That's a big one of mine. It's a real dilemma, right? All those things that get in the way. And don't let that stop the greatness you have. Another fear that we have is the fear of taking responsibility. Not just for your life, it's for how great you are. You've all done great things when you've gotten past fear and you've committed. So the problem with being so great is sometimes we just don't want to deal with that, because then there's no excuses for us anymore, right? Those stories can't exist anymore. They die, and then we're forced to deal with our reality that we're amazing creatures and we can do just about anything we want to do when we set our minds to it. And so that is a real fear. When I work with people, and I work with thousands of people, that's really prominent, and it's tough for us to get that sometimes. Anyway, you're amazing. Go make a difference today. That's going to generate great energy and courage for yourself to keep moving on. And it is a source of your purpose, right? To make a difference today and try something. Get outside your comfort zone. And this is my brother, I think, showed me this. I'm going to show you the international sign of effectiveness. And hopefully you can see that. That's it, the international sign for effectiveness. And what that is putting your butt on the line. That's what gets you going, right? And that's key. Challenge yourself, realize how amazing you are, have some faith in yourself, go make a difference. I thank you. Go have an incredible, incredible day. Any questions, if I can be of any help, reach out to me at my website, dashstrategic.com. There's a contact page. Reach out to me there. We also have some programs coming up this Monday. I'm doing a lunch with Norm, as opposed to coffee with Norm, at 12 noon, about 45 minutes or so. And it's building loyal clients. And it's part of my organizational development program for sure. So log into that. It doesn't cost anything. You will have to sign up. And there's some instructions on our Facebook page here, the Tribe of Transformational Leaders. And if you want to join this club, feel free. Just reach out. We would love to have your company and your input. And that's it. Coffee with Norm three times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Go do what you need to do to have an amazing life. So on that deathbed, I hate talking like that, you're going to go, man, I kick butt. Have a great day. Take care of yourself. Thank you.